All right, in this episode, I want to talk about emergency accounts. You must have heard this term, having an emergency account. It's you come across if you looked into saving money or anything like that, you've come across this. You've heard it, a savings account for a rainy day. So let's just cover the basics. It's good to have an emergency fund. An emergency fund should consist of 3 to 6 months of your income. And the goal of the emergency fund is to cover you during an emergency. Let's talk about some of those examples. You get laid off, you don't have a job. Some sort of medical issue occurs and you're out of work. Your roof caves in and you don't have insurance to cover it yet, or you have insurance, it takes a while. You get into a car accident and your car's wrecked. The insurance doesn't cover it for some reason, or it doesn't cover it right away. Insurance doesn't cover everything. I hope you know that. That's something you should know. You might have car insurance or home insurance, and sometimes it just doesn't cover what you think it will. Let's see, what's another good example of having an emergency account? I like to put this back on you. I want you to think about your worst case scenario. What scares you? I'm going to guess that you might be living paycheck to paycheck. If you don't, I'm glad. But let's say at some point you did. You probably did. Everyone has at some point. You worked paycheck to paycheck, or you do. And what is your biggest fear? Your biggest fear, that's what you need to think about. You probably have multiple fears. What if I lose my job? What if my partner loses their job because we both support the family? What if my partner gets sick? What if I get sick? What if a child gets sick? And maybe we don't have good health insurance right now. Maybe we don't have good car insurance. These are things you really just have to think about. What's your worst case scenario? And that's what you want to put in your emergency fund. Another great thing I like to do with my emergency fund is I like to call it the screw you fund. All right. This is the fund that protects you in your job or in your workplace. So when you don't have any sort of savings, your company or your employer has a ton of leverage over you. They don't talk about it, but it's there, and you know it's there. You're living paycheck to paycheck, and if you lose that job, you're in dire straits, and that affects everything you do. And you may not be honest with yourself. You may not speak up to people. You may not do your best to do your job. You may put too much stress on yourself. And this is a good reason to have this emergency account. Worst case scenarios, you get fired and you don't have unemployment insurance. There's your emergency fund. It's going to protect you. You'll be able to pay your bills. You'll be able to pay your mortgage, and you're going to be okay. That's why it's really important to have an emergency fund. Just think of it as peace of mind and leverage for you. You want to take control over your life. You don't want other people controlling it or pushing you around. That it protects you. You're working hard. You're making all this money. You want to have a little leverage and protection on your side. So that's another good way to look at an emergency account. Some people, they just got a house. They're thinking of what if the furnace goes, the fridge, or the stove. That's also a good reason to have an emergency account. I recommend having a separate savings account for your home in that case. If you just bought a home, start to build up your emergency fund, start to build up your emergency account, but then create a separate savings account and call that your home account. Get a couple thousand in there. If you think your fridge is on the way out, or you think you got to replace a window pretty soon, have that dedicated. You know it's there. Where do you put this money? So these funds are things that you need access to right away. So you want them in cash or some liquid investment like a money market fund. So I'll give you an example. If you lose your job, or let's say whatever the emergency is, you need access to this emergency fund. You don't want to have to sell stocks or a mutual fund when the price is really low compared to when you bought it, right? You don't want to lose money in your emergency fund. You don't want to have to pay fees to tap into it. I don't like CDs because that's another thing where you can't have access to it. You almost get penalized if you take your money out. So just put this money into an online savings account. Go to bankrate.com, search for all the interest rates, and just put the money into an online savings account. And you can link to it. If you need that money, you can get it within 3 days. Choose an account that has a high interest rate, and that's it. And then just try and put as much as you can every month. If it seems overwhelming, start with $20, $50, just to know that you're starting that process. Feels good. You know it's on your horizon, and it's something you're putting your money towards. This is another great thing just to think about when you're active this is another great tool to have in your toolbox with your money. Okay, we go to work every day. We go to work because we need money. We have to eat. We need shelter. We need to have a car to get to work, all these things. But you also want to be getting ahead. As you get older, life should get easier on you. You should reap the benefits of all this work you're doing. Have savings, have investments, have this emergency fund to protect you. It's there, it's leverage. I just want to tell you from my own personal experience as well, the first time I got this emergency fund kind of to a point where, like, let's say I set it, the first time I got it to $10,000 and then maybe even $15,000, I can't tell you the relief I felt from it. It was amazing. Today, I have an emergency fund, and I still feel so good knowing it's there. It protects me. I can't tell you how stress-free that is, and knowing that you're just not living paycheck to paycheck. It's just there to protect you. Hopefully you don't have to use it. That's the other thing. Hopefully you don't have to use it, but it's there. It gives you peace of mind. So I just want you to think about that. Really work towards it. The other thing I wanted to talk about with emergency funds is, home equity line. Sometimes you hear this advice, get a home equity line, and then in case of an emergency, you can tap into it. I don't like that. Okay, that's a home equity line. It's basically, it's great. It's a great opportunity. If you got nothing else, any savings, and you just bought a home, and it's good to have for emergencies, but be careful. Oh, sorry, that's my dog in the background yawning. You got to be careful, because then you might be like, oh, let's do the bathroom over. Let's do new granite top counters. Let's do new carpeting. You have to be really careful because it's a line of credit. The bank is happy to have you use that because then you owe them money and you have to pay interest. You don't want to have to be in an emergency and then on top of that, borrow money from someone else. So now you've got an emergency, you're stressed out. Now you have to go to someone else like a bank or a person and borrow money and pay interest. So now you've got this emergency and now you're building up debt. It's not a good solution. It's great as a last resort, but I don't recommend it. Just think about that. Some people might have recommended that, and just think about the mechanics of that and what's really going to happen if you tap into it. That's all I have to say about emergency funds. It's pretty straightforward. 3 to 6 months. What's your emergency? What are you afraid of? Put some money in an account. All right. Thanks for listening. Hey, listen, if you get a chance, go to basicmoneytalk.com. I have 2 courses, Teen Money Management, also Next Level Money Management. If you find these interesting, share them, put the word out. These are really great tools. I really recommend them. I put a lot of work into it. I'm excited to have them out there. If you have any feedback, please go to the podcast page or Facebook and send me a note. I love to hear from you. Thanks so much. Have a great day.